1935, the Lions win the NFL championship. The Detroit Tigers take the World Series. The Red Wings bring home Lord Stanley's Cup. Joe Louis begins his rise to world domination. This transforms the Motor City into Detroit, City of Champions.
Ah, there it is, the crack of the bat. Detroit, City of Champions, the podcast. I'm Jamie Flanagan.
Charles Avison.
We've been doing some fun stuff over the last handful of episodes that people have been listening into. We took a trip down to Portsmouth, Ohio, and it was just
that was like that's like I'm
one of your top 10 moments of your life.
Yeah,
I got to share it with you.
Yes, I had. It was a fantastic show. It's still my favorite show that we've done.
Tighten up on that.
It's still my favorite show that we've done.
Yeah.
And we met. I met some great friends, great people down there. Learned an absolute ton.
Oh my
and
God.
It's like I feel like it's like it's almost like a home away from home, like cousins or something.
Oh, they.
You know what
I mean, yeah, they did.
Like we've maintained contact with a lot of these guys. Will Malt, Jim Kennedy.
Yeah.
We we got another invite to to go back down there.
And then we hooked up with Neil Rule.
Yep. Oh yeah.
In Detroit.
Yes, we were talking about some. Exactly.
Continuing the fight that began in 1932.
Yeah. Well, that was the Iron Man game.
1932.
Yeah.
1930. And again in 19. Holy crap! I'm Prince. 1999. 2022. 23.
Yeah.
Lions do it again.
Oh yeah,
they keep the Packers out of.
I know, that was amazing.
Of the so the Lions didn't win. You know they didn't win.
They didn't go to the playoffs, but they still knocked out the Packers. Yeah,
and it was a really, really nice capstone to a troubled season, and it turning into a successful,
an incredible season. The second half of the season was amazing.
Right. So it was a troubled season. And there was growth and improvement and
well, if you're talking about the Lions this year, this is my quick summary of it. Is that I went into the season with incredible excitement. The incredible excitement. I didn't think it was the same old Lions. I saw that, like I said in the last show, the last game of the previous year, last year.
You were excited.
I was excited because it was one of the best games I've ever seen Lions play. They beat the Packers in that final game. I told that to Neil Rule.
Right.
And it was one of the best games my favorite games I've ever seen the Lions play. There was nothing. They had everything to lose. They by winning the game, they lost the first overall pick.
Right.
And they won anyways, despite that, and they still got the guy that they wanted to get the first overall pick. That's amazing. Yeah.
I love
him. Yeah.
I love
and so this year, going into the season, they were on Hard Knocks.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're like, the excitement is just like I mean, it's thick in the air. You're like, the Lions are on Hard Knocks. You got to meet all the coaches. You got to see Rodrigo for the Lions. There's all these like new characters, new faces. And then they go into the season and they just start getting pounded and slaughtered. There's like all this negativity around them, and they're like, "Is Dan Campbell ready to get fired?" And then there's like, former Lions chiming in on Twitter, going, "Well, what do you guys expect? You got a WWE wrestler for a head coach." People are mocking him, and it was
he's got the heart of I
know. But early in the season they were like, "He's done. This guy's a joke. It's over."
But all season long, I'm like, "Oh man, I wish they were winning because I love this guy."
Yeah, I know.
I did. I'm not a sports guy at all. But I'm like, oh, this dude is genuine. I hope he can stick around.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, football is sport. It's so fickle. It's so fickle.
But at one point in the season, we're just hoping he's going to make it through the season because it was just so bad. The team was They went through two. This is a stat that I don't really hear getting kicked around enough. They went through almost 2 full games without stopping the other team once.
Oh, right.
The one to stop that they got was only because the other team missed a field goal attempt. It was a
nightmare.
Against the Seahawks, if they would have got one stop, they would have won the game. They lost like 47-49 or something. It was the most horrendous thing I've ever seen.
Nightmare football. But
but they rebounded massively and they got incredibly fun. But the thing is,
the last game was such an encapsulation about the Detroit City of Champions.
Yes,
and it was such a callback
to the Iron Man game.
To the Iron Man game, keeping them out of this dream team and these golden boys and the prima donnas.
Exactly.
And the media loved them and everybody loved the Packers in 32.
Sure they did.
Everybody loved them in 22. And
by all accounts,
guess what? suck it, boys.
Yeah.
You're not making it.
Yeah, and by all accounts, that Ironman game in Portsmouth, besides the fact that it's just one of the most legendary games, but it's like that game was like just the most well-attended. Fans were obsessed with going to this game. Like that was like the high water mark of the Spartans.
So that I appreciate Neil coming in to talk to us on that.
Absolutely, that was great.
Will and Joe and who's the reporter cat down there? The guy from public radio who did a feature with you.
Randy Yohe.
Randy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everybody down there that were just open their arms to us and welcomed us in over the last couple of episodes. So if you're just catching this one.
But we're still doing a third episode on this because we had some,
you said because we've been corresponding hard with these guys.
Absolutely. They've got I met Jim Kennedy on the final day we were there. And down at the stadium lunch, which is like the place, man.
So what do we want to talk about
lunch.
today? What are we talking
well,
about?
That's what I'm saying.
Jim sent us.
So I met Jim Kennedy at the stadium lunch, and he is like the collector of Portsmouth Spartan memorabilia.
Right.
I mean, this guy had at the stadium lunch, which is a restaurant in Portsmouth, rated called the Stadium Lunch, is right near the stadiums down there.
And talking about lunch, before I was shoveling chips in my mouth while you were talking.
You're good.
And we want to, because we also, I do another show called the Man Cave Happy Hour, and I want to give a little shout out to the Man Cave Happy Hour and our guests today that were Triaxial Mead. Triaxialmeads.com, and we were drinking meads, and I needed a little chips or something to calm things down.
I had a little meads too before they left. I walked in, you guys were still wrapping up, and then they were like, "Here, try some of this meads."
So
I was like,
people joining us on the video thing, it's like, why is he shoveling food in his mouth like a madman? It's because we just wrapped up the Man Cave Happy Hour.
You about drinking 50 flavors of honey wine. So,
I know we did.
Yeah,
and
you're forgiven, bro.
So I looked like all of a sudden I saw myself on the video, and I was like, oh, that's not a good look there, James.
You're all right, man. You're over it. But
all right, so with Jim Kennedy
so I met him. Jim Kennedy is, he's another one of these guys down there. They're all great. They're all great people. They're super nice, and I met him. And on the day, it was the anniversary of the Ironman game. We were, commemorating a new sign. So at the stadium lunch, which we actually talked about in the last episode, I had a picture taken with Christy there. She's the bartender there. Met Reese, the owner.
Oh, I didn't download any of that stuff.
They're all good people. We had dinner with, his wife was at dinner the previous night, Reese's wife.
Yeah.
We love the stadium lunch, and it was it was a great, and that's where they had all the that's where Jim had all of his memorabilia set up. He had game programs.
Oh,
he had
amazing.
original tickets.
Yeah.
They had schematics. Dr. Fight had these really cool schematics. I was like, how do I get one of these posters?
Yeah.
We
got the posters.
Yeah, so we got there's all kinds of great stuff there, and then after the show, after that, just talking with Jim after the show, and we call it the Jim Kennedy collection. I mean, this is an actual proper collection of some of the greatest Spartan memorabilia there is, and he's been the stuff that he sent me stuff. I've sent it to you. And I've been showing you this stuff, and I'm like, this stuff is incredible, and it's like
it's kind of neat. I figured we'd do one more episode.
At least,
talk about this.
yeah. And so because this is the kind of stuff that like once it gets brought to you, that's why we named the episode Revelations, because there's some stuff. It's not just like stuff that's gonna this is like a cool like game program, which is game programs are cool, but this is information that is of consequence, that adds to the story that we've talked about the Spartans before.
Right.
But this is something that adds to the story that reveals things that we've never talked about on the show and really has never been revealed.
Right. These are like lost.
These are lost.
Take a sip of water. You're dying. It sounds like you're dying.
No, I'm good, man.
You sure?
Don't worry about me, bro.
Take a sip. Take a sip. You're killing me.
There's nothing in there.
You're scaring me.
I'll take a
you want
drink
me to
of
go
this.
get you a water?
No, I'm fine.
You all right? You want to share my water? You okay?
You worry about your chips. I'll worry about my.
I'm done with my chips.
I'm fine.
I'm checking on you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right.
So, anyways, so we got some new information here, and it's like, well,
it's cool stuff.
We got some great stuff to kind of bring out and to flesh out a little bit more of the Spartans and also a little bit of the connection between the Spartans and Lions, and I've got three things that I want to go over today for this show.
What you got?
So the very first thing is that so 1932 was this like pivotal year. Of course, this is the year that that was the year of the Ironman game. And of course, if this is your first show, listen in. The concept of the Iron Man game is that the Lions beat the Packers, the Spartans knocked out the Packers in this game. They played all 11 men on the field for the same game, and it set up the situation where the following week the Bears beat the Packers as well, and both teams tied to set up the first NFL championship game.
Yeah.
All right. And so this is now we're talking about December now. This is December, and so what ends up happening is they're like, well, the teams are both tied. In the NFL for a while, we're like, well, how do we would like to have our own version of the Super Bowl. Well, now the opportunity is at hand because the Bears and the Spartans are now tied. And so they're like, well, let's do a championship game. Well, the problem is that it's a crazy blizzard rolling through the entire country, so they can't play outside. So they end up playing inside the Chicago Stadium, which was the Blackhawks arena. And, of course, it's better to play there because they get more fans in Chicago.
Sure.
And so they set up this game. Well, the problem was, so the Spartans would end up losing 9-0. They gave in the fourth quarter they gave up a touchdown and also a safety to lose 9-0. But the one of the things that the sort of what ifs of that story was the fact that Dutch Clark didn't play in the game. Dutch Clark was the best player on the Spartans.
Yeah.
He's one of the best players in the NFL.
Well, what the hell was Dutch doing?
Well, so in my book, that was a question that was never really resolved. The question was, that it was just like, well, Dutch Clark wasn't available. That was that. Really, I just had to go with that sort of blanket concept because, and if you ever look up the story, it's like,
oh, sorry.
If you ever look into the story, it's like they just kind of brush over that part. They're like, well, Dutch Clark was not available. He'd taken a teaching position at the Colorado School of Mines,
okay.
And because this game was like overtime for the season, it was not planned. His contract had begun at the Colorado School of Mines, and he was not available. He wasn't able to go to get to break free from teaching at this school.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that that Jim sent me was, I don't know if you have it up on screen, if we can put it up on screen.
Working on them.
So it's just sort of a vague question that's never like really properly been specifically answered. It's just like, oh, he wasn't available. So it's assumed. It's just assumed that it's because, well, he just couldn't make it. It's like it's this Colorado, he's got a contract. And that maybe, but the biggest thing is that was it Dutch's decision that he couldn't make it? Or was it somebody else's? You see what I'm saying? There's a little bit of a gray area in this.
Yeah.
And if anybody is inclined to be like, well, that's just a minor, unimportant detail. Well, we're talking about the first NFL championship game. And why arguably the best player in the NFL was not available for the first NFL championship game.
Yeah.
So anytime we have a piece of information, it's relevant to bring it up and to say this is the reason. We found that this is what one of the things Jim sent me. So if you so did you bring up
working on it?
Let's go, man. Let's go, tech guy.
All right.
So so it's a Western Union telegram.
All right. I don't know which one it is.
It's one that has a number 1 at the bottom.
All right, just keep talking.
Well, I want to have it up on screen so the viewer can see it. Because I'm going to read it. There it is. Cool.
All right.
Awesome. So what we have here is so there's a telegram, and in case you're just listening, you can't see it on screen. It's a Western Union telegram, and it's dated December 14th, 1932. And why this date is relevant, I have it up on the screen with another clipping at the top. The Chicago, it's a Chicago Tribune, I think it is, article, Chicago Daily Tribune, yeah. And so the date of this, on December 12th, 1932, it's the day after the Bears had beaten the Packers 9-0. So it tied them with the Spartans for this championship game.
All right.
So the headline of the article on December 12th, 1932 is Bears beat Packers to play for title. This headline is the first announcement of an NFL championship game. That headline will play for title. And so but what's important is December 12th because this is the piece now that Jim sent me, which is this Western Union telegram, which is dated 2 days later, December 14th.
Okay.
And so
Jim has his stuff in the Portsmouth archives.
Yes, he's got his own. I mean, he's got his own.
Is this on display someplace? That people,
I
or is
think
this
he's
like
got some stuff on display at a few
in a
different
filing
places.
cabinet in his
I think
office
he's
and,
worked with some other authors to get to show some of the images. He's used his collection for different.
So this is really very, very exclusive.
This is exclusive. This hasn't been, as far as I know, this has not been seen
Not
anywhere
many
else.
eyes have seen this.
No, I don't think anybody else except for private collections and maybe maybe an author. I can't vouch. There's another book. There's a book on Dutch Clark by Chris Willis.
So
he may
very,
have used
very
it for
few
that.
eyes have had their ability to. All right, okay.
But we're actually putting it in the context of of its relevancy,
All
which is that may be the first time there is. So this telegram, in case you're just listening or you can't see it on the screen, the telegram is to Homer Selby, who is the president of the Portsmouth Spartans, the president of the team. And the email, so this Western Union telegram is from Charles C. Miro, who I looked him up, and he was the actual president of. They say he's president of the Colorado College, but he's also. But according to this telegram, he's the authority on this subject. He's writing to Homer Selby, and the telegram says, Homer C. Selby, president for Portsmouth National Football League, regret impossibility of permitting Mr. Clark to leave his important duties as basketball coach. So it's from this is so the
basketball.
So it's not Dutch that's saying I can't.
Who's even watching basketball?
Well, he took this job as the head
I'm making fun of
I get you. But this is the telegram is from the president of the university saying, I regret the impossibility. Like this not. We can't. There's no way to work this in. It's impossible for permitting. We're not letting him leave. He's got important duties. So it kind of shows that Charles Miro thought very little of the NFL championship game. It was like it's more important that he spends these couple of days as our basketball coach than it is for him to go into wherever and play for
coaching the intramural fraternity basketball league
rather than go to the first NFL championship game. So this right here is actual confirmation that this is. So it wasn't Dutch that made the decision not to go. Like
right.
I'm like, I can't show up because I just took this job.
Right.
This is the president of the university saying he's not leaving. So anyway, so that's a piece of information that to clarify this, and so the other thing the reason I included this clipping too is that so they made the announcement on December 12th that there's going to be this title game, and so they immediately wire him and say, hey, we need Dutch Clark to come back, and so they're like 2 days later he sends a Western Union telegram is like regret impossibility of it. Like yeah, I bet you regret it. Thanks a lot, So they had to go. So they found out because the game was played on the 18th. It was played 4 days later.
Here's
and they said,
"Yeah, go on."
Yeah, so the actual NFL championship game was played 4 days after this Western Union telegram, and they're like it was at that point they're like we're going up to play for the first for our championship and we don't have Dutch.
Well, my devil advocate that it's he probably got the gig, and the president's like, all right. You're a big football guy. I get it. Football's a big thing. He goes, I want you here. I want you teaching, and I want you doing the basketball things. I don't need you running, going to football garbage.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, it's over. It's over because they didn't
exactly. Yeah.
They didn't know there'd be a championship. He's like,
exactly.
No, we're done. I'm here. I want to teach.
Exactly.
I need this salary because those guys didn't make a ton of money.
No, they all said back in the
they scraped. We talked about how these players would scrape through.
Sure, and part of their salary was also was tied to them actually getting these teaching jobs at the high schools or wherever they were playing at.
Right.
That's,
so. The president's probably, I'm going to give you this gig. He goes, but no running back to Ohio for shenanigans.
Yes, and then all of a sudden the shenanigan comes up, and he's like, "Why already told you?"
And he's like, he goes, I'll send him a wire. You're not going.
Yeah.
He goes, You want this job? And he's like, crap. Yeah, I need this job.
Yeah.
I would devil advocate. I would wager that's how it went down.
And so they're
no proof whatsoever.
Yeah.
That's just me talking out my backside.
Well, but the thing is that it was actually Charles
That's
Miro.
Some of the best stuff, though.
So it was Charles Miro actually saying. It's impossible for permitting him to leave, but he's the president of the university and he's the one saying it ain't happening. You know what I mean? So it's not Dutch saying I can't go. It's because that's kind of the way I used to think about it was like Dutch had just gotten out there and he was like, I'm kind of good, and he's like, but it was So this this fills in a gap.
Chris is like huge on our show.
Yeah.
And he was like, he read it in a book that the telegram went out. And then but they did mention.
Oh, he did see this telegram before?
Yeah. No, but it's mentioned.
Oh, okay.
He hasn't seen the actual telegram.
Okay.
So there you go.
So good. Thanks for that
Chris,
information, Chris. Appreciate it.
there you go.
Yeah,
now you can see it. Zoom in on that.
Yeah. So this is the actual telegram that
right.
saying So anyway, so I thought that was really cool, and I thought it was definitely worth sharing on the show, putting it out there. So that was the first thing I wanted to talk about, and then so sort of moving on to the next thing that sent to us from Jim, and this so this next thing.
And thank you, Jim, for sharing.
Yeah, thanks, Jim, for all this stuff, man. This stuff's fantastic.
Yeah.
And so so the next thing is this was an absolute treat. He sent this, and
I feel like I got the inside scoop, man.
You did. I've already sent this to you. You've seen this before. I have a little note on the top here for just to kind of remind, like a note for why I'm bringing this out. And my little brief shorthand on here, it says why it matters to study the Spartans. Okay, because
this is a Detroit podcast. What are we talking about? Ohio horse crap.
But the thing
for?
about it is, this is the thing, and especially prior to last show when I was reading these, kind of boning up on my Portsmouth Spartans before we went down there. The thing about the history of the Detroit Lions is that whenever the story is told, you can't. Everybody knows you can't mention the history of the Lions without mentioning where they came from.
You should.
I've seen them mention.
You can. No.
In fact, in the recent game, I've seen them mention that the Lions came from Portsmouth, Ohio.
Oh, did they really?
It was it was maybe the second to last game, or it
my
might have
God.
even been the last game. They might have even mentioned it there too.
All right.
I think in the last game against the Packers, they mentioned it, but the guy got cut off because a play started happening, and then the guy got cut off before he could start to really go.
The last game is the time they should have talked about it. All
I
right.
think that they mentioned it briefly,
tried, and
the guy was about to go into it, and then some crazy play happened. It was like a kick.
It.
It was like a good kick.
Somebody
return.
twisted his toenail. We got to talk about that.
Yeah, and so he got distracted, and they moved on. But the thing about it is that usually when the history of the Lions is talked about, it's talked about they're like, yes, the Lions came from Portsmouth. Now let's move on. We just checked that box. Let's move on, right?
No, there's more to it than that.
Exactly. The thing about it is that
there's a rich history. It's the first NFL game played.
I know, but it's not just it's not simply just a fact that's like an interesting story. It is an interesting story to dive into, but it's not just. It's not just like, oh well, hey, you got to know the history of it in order for what it is like you can't understand who this first championship team was without understanding their history prior to coming to Detroit. For the Lions championship in 1935 was a culmination of years of this very specific group of players that had been building, and it extends back even prior to these players, with Portsmouth just trying to get an NFL team and overcoming the Irons and Tanks in this whole saga with that. And so that's really the history of it. But at the very basic, to understand how the Detroit Lions won their first NFL championship, from the perspective of Detroiters, they won it in their second year.
Yeah.
The Lions won it in their second year. But for the players, this wasn't the second year that they won, they won their NFL championship.
Yeah.
This was a culmination of 5-6 years of effort where they were climbing to the top of the mountain, they got knocked down. They got climbing to the top of the mountain, they got knocked down. Then they go, going into 1933, they lost. They didn't have Dutch Clark. He actually took that full time. He didn't come back from that teaching job that he missed because of the championship game, and so they didn't even have him for 1933. And so they had to face that this same group of guys was looking at, like, we know we're talented, we know we've gotten to the top of the mountain, we don't have our best player, and we can't even barely get paid by the team,
right?
And we're in trouble. So our entire group is about to fall apart. And then that sort of second chance comes with the Lions to continue. It was a continuation of what they'd already been building in Portsmouth, and it was an opportunity to get back on the field and continue to, but this time with some more resources to wage this war that they'd already been waging against the rest of the NFL powers, including the Packers, including the Bears. So for the Detroit fans, this was new. These guys were new. This was oh my God, we won our championship, and only the second year the Lions were in the city. Yes, but the story of this team goes back years before that, and so not to understand who the Spartans were or the Spartan story is to not understand how and why that first Lions team won their championship.
Yep.
So that's what I'm saying. So that's so
Critical.
Like, so
Critical.
and that concept is outlined incredibly well in this document that Jim sent.
All right, what's it got?
So what we're talking about here is I wish I had a screenshot to put up on the screen, but
Wow.
I'll read the title. So the title of the article is "The Champion Detroit Lions of 1935 and the Portsmouth Spartans of 31 to 33." And so the author of this little article here, this was never published. This is an unpublished little article, okay? And this is written by Gover Ox Emerson.
Oh.
The Lions All-Pro guard. And he wrote this in October 1985.
Did we allude to this?
No, this not since the last show. It's been a few weeks since we've done our last show. But I've acquired it since, Jim sent me this since then.
We
but
talked
this is
about
written,
Ox.
We've talked about Ox's. Yeah, Ox Emerson is one of the main components of this story. He's a huge guy.
Keep going.
Ox Emerson's their All-Pro guard. Him and Tarzan Christensen were their two best. You could argue that these other Claire Randolph was a stud too. But Ox Emerson I think he's one of the 1930s. All-decade team. He was an incredible player for this team.
So he wrote this article.
He wrote this. Published. It was never got. But this was an article sent to.
What does Ox say?
He tells the story of the transition of the Spartans to the Lions.
Okay.
And he wrote this on the occasion of him writing this. I think he was just writing this for posterity. I don't know who he's.
So
writing.
this is a reflective thing after the fact, years after. Okay.
Yes, and he wrote this. And what's interesting is our great friend Tom Urich, who was at the 1985 Golden Huddle 50th anniversary.
Right.
Ox Emerson wrote this for that occasion. He wrote this for.
Did he present it there?
He may have. But Jim got a copy of this. So,
all right. What is it?
So anyway, so I'm going to read it. It's a couple pages.
The whole thing, or?
I'm going to read it. It's only two. It's two and a quarter pages. Yeah. All right. So again, the title is "The Champion Detroit Lions of 1935 and the Portsmouth Spartans of 31 to 33."
The role of Ox Emerson will be played by Charles Avison.
Yes, the voice of Ox Emerson will be played by me. Okay. So on the weekend of October 25th, 27th, 1985, the 50th anniversary of the first NFL championship of the Detroit Lions will be celebrated. Many of those 1935 players are still with us. Ernie Cadell, Frank Christensen, Ox Emerson, Tony Kaska, Ed Klewicki, Bill McCallop, Butch Morse, Doug Knott, Glenn Presnell, Red Stacy, and Elmer Ward. Others who were close to the team were Abe Kushner, trainer, Lou Cromwell, office manager, and Edgar Hayes, Detroit Times. Abe Kushner is in charge of plans for the reunion. And just in a quick aside, Abe Kushner is the guy who Tom promised that he was going to, bring back the 1935 season. Yes. And so, yeah, exactly. Abe Kushner was a huge role for Tom. He was the one that invited Tom to the event.
Make sure these names are
to
not
record it.
forgotten.
Yeah. So Abe Kushner is in charge of plans for the reunion, and many festivities are planned. A few of the 1935 group will be unable to attend, but most of those named above will be in Detroit. They will be honored at the halftime of the Detroit Lions game with the Miami Dolphins. In 1934, the franchise coach and players of the Portsmouth Spartans were transferred to Detroit and became the first Detroit Lions team. The move came after 3 years of financial struggling during the worst years of the Great Depression to keep the team in Portsmouth, Ohio. The Selby family were the leaders in this effort. The new Lions of 1934 won their first 10 consecutive games, the first 7 of those by shutouts, and they missed the league championship closely. Then, in the season of 1935, the Lions won the National League Professional Championship by defeating the New York Giants, champions of the East Division. What enabled the Lions to win the World Professional title in just 2 short years? To get to the answer, one must go back and study the Portsmouth Spartans of 1931, 32, and 33. Forerunners of the Lions. You must go back.
Okay.
Basically, it was a result of mutual loyalty, a togetherness on the part of the team members and the Portsmouth townspeople. The people of Portsmouth accepted the team members as their own. This remarkable friendship grew stronger as the months and years passed. The feeling of friendship and loyalty to one another was forged in a number of ways. Townspeople invited the players into their homes for social visits, dinners, etc. When they met on the streets, the townspeople greeted the players like friends. The people visited the Spartan practice sessions. Most of the unmarried players stayed in the homes of the Portsmouth people. On game days, those who could afford to, in those Depression times, attended the games. Some of the Spartans married Portsmouth girls. Ernie Cadell, the Galloping Gazelle from Stanford University, married the lovely Nell Gableman. Ernie was an All-American halfback in college and was later selected as an All-Pro halfback. He was considered to be the fastest player in the league. Glenn Presnell, my favorite player from that team.
Yeah,
I love
yeah,
Glenn Presnell.
Glenn's awesome.
Yes, was the blonde blizzard from the University of Nebraska, where he was an All-American halfback. He married Elizabeth Gerling from nearby Ironton, Ohio. Elizabeth taught him how to dance, which was quite a job. The backfield won the girls, but the slow, lumbering linemen won smiles from the Portsmouth mothers when they bragged on the good ladies cooking. So the team members had a strong feeling of friendship for the townspeople. This was the first year out of college for many of the players, and they played just as hard for the Portsmouth people as they had played for their colleges. The relationship that existed between the team and the people of Portsmouth was not planned. It was a natural and human development, and it was fun for both sides. The Spartans traveled by bus. They would go to New York for a few weeks and play the Giants, the Philadelphia team, the Brooklyn team, and some other nearby teams. On the bus trips, Coach Potsy Clark, former quarterback for the University of Illinois, would order the bus driver Smitty to stop suddenly. There's a big empty field out there. Put on your shoes and let's have a practice. Potsy had the reputation of not allowing an injured player to leave the football field during a game. It will hurt as much on the bench as it does here. Stay in. We don't have many players. Yeah, Potsy.
It's going to hurt here. It's going to hurt there. Keep playing.
We love Potsy.
Oh, my God.
On the first trip to the East, the
no
team...
blue tent.
Yeah, no tent. So on the first trip to the East, the team did very well. When the New York Giants came out for their pregame warm-up at the Polo Grounds, they were very impressive in their resplendent red, white, and blue jerseys. Like most of the other teams in the league, the Giants had much more money than the Spartans. We had no money for new uniforms. Our Spartan colors were purple and white, but our jerseys were so faded that they had as many shades of war as the war paint of the Shawnee Indians, who roamed and ruled the Ohio Valley many, many years ago. However, faded uniforms did not matter to us. Uniforms do not make football players. The Spartans won their games in the East and other places too. After that first trip back east, the Spartans returned home in their bus and were met about 10 miles outside of Portsmouth by a cavalcade of townspeople, their horns making much noise of welcome. Imagine the sight.
Yeah.
After the first road trip back east, the Spartans returned home in their bus and were met by about 10 miles outside of Portsmouth by a cavalcade of townspeople, their horns making much noise of welcome. It was the tip-off to how the people of Portsmouth felt about their Spartans. The friendship had grown into real comradeship. The team members themselves were a closely knit group. There was a feeling of mutual admiration and respect among them, regardless of where each man came from. Team members would meet at the Cameo restaurant and have a meal together. They were true friends and played for one another, as well as for the townspeople. Team spirit and togetherness carried the Spartans to many victories. They were always at the top of the league or very near the top. This unity stayed with the team members after they moved to Detroit. The single players lived in a residential hotel, and the married players all lived in a large apartment building about 4 blocks from the unmarried players. It can truly be said that the champion Detroit Lions of 1935 grew out of a team spirit developed in the Portsmouth years. As in the case of many fine teams, the intangible factors played a great part in the team's success. Loyalty, unity, comradeship among each other and between the team and the people of Portsmouth bound separate talents into a championship team. Ox Emerson, he's got it dated. GC Ox Emerson, October 1985.
Come from a guy named Ox.
Ox, yes.
That's
Ox Emerson.
Those are some nice sentiments from a
That's what I'm saying.
Cat named Ox.
But you can see this. So his letter that he's writing on the 50th
football.
year.
A guy named Ox. So football, good.
Yeah, and he's also like kind of he wasn't even that really big either. He called him Ox. I think it was almost like calling a big guy tiny or something.
It's a bit
like,
ironic.
It was.
All
it was
right,
kind of like
fair
ironic because he wasn't like the biggest guy in the world.
Okay.
But he was elite. He was an incredible guard.
Yeah.
And I wrote him into the screenplay too. He's a major character in the screenplay. So, anyways, this is Ox Emerson is writing his recollections on the celebration of the 50th anniversary. And what is he talking about? He is talking about the Spartans.
Yep.
He's talking about how critical it was for that team to be forged in the way that it did in Portsmouth. That he said those last lines.
The team was forged in Portsmouth.
Yes, and it wasn't just
without a doubt.
It wasn't just that some random team got moved to Detroit and then they just we won in our second year.
We got some of these guys, some of that guys.
He said it can truly be said that the champion Detroit Lions of 1935 grew out of a team spirit developed in the Portsmouth years. So you see it right there. He says it. So I think my note at the top here to start this letter off. Why it matters to study the Spartans is a relevant point.
I love the images of the bus and the coming back to a series of cheers and horn beeping. All I can think of is I'm 12 years old. But the movie Slapshot, and as the team got better and better,
Yeah.
or more popular, not better, but necessarily, but more popular in the movie Slapshot. And
Yeah, they started getting beat up
because
fans,
they were fighting, and so the bus driver was like had an hatchet, he had an axe, and he was like chopping up the side of the bus, and the one guy goes, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm making it look mean."
Yeah,
and he's chopping up the bus, and because as you said, envisioning the bus coming back, I'm like, because we're making the bus look mean. But because that was the thing when the Slapshot guys were coming back to town. There were just throngs of people cheering them on from their latest road victory, and it's just like B League hockey team.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is, we we love our Lions of today, and we're excited about them. I'd run out there and meet their bus if I knew which lane was coming. I'd be like, "Hey, Lions!"
Now you got the players entrance, and they come in with their fur coats and their earbuds.
It's just a different style. Now I watch YouTube videos all day. Every time I hear the slightest rumor of a Lions thing, I watch YouTube videos all day long on it. But so that's how I demonstrate my fan excitement. But the main point to once again hammer home, it's to say, why do you guys keep talking about Portsmouth? Why did you go down there? Why will we maybe going back down there again this year?
Oh yeah, we're gonna
because this is a central component in the story. This is not, and if you take one thing from these like sort of 3 episodes we've done in a row on Portsmouth, we're not, you cannot understand. We cannot understand how the Lions won in 1935 without understanding. It's an extension.
Without a doubt.
It is not a just sort of like a passing detail that they just happen to come from Portsmouth and moved here. This is what the story of the Lions is rooted in Portsmouth, and thus Portsmouth we will continue to focus.
And Portsmouth, we're coming for you.
What's that?
I said Portsmouth.
Yeah, we're heading down there.
We're coming for you. We're coming.
So
back,
that's why
baby.
we continue to cover Portsmouth, and that's why we're going to continue to cover Portsmouth.
And they invited us.
Well, that too, of course. We love them down there. We love Portsmouth
because you asked. So
yeah, we love Portsmouth. We love going down there. That's why we keep talking about it. So, anyways, that was the second thing I wanted to cover for the show, and this is the third.
Yes.
So this again, Jim Kennedy collection. That's where this comes from. And so this is a poem that he sent. So this was written. So
poems? I got poems.
So yeah, so this
Hickory,
I don't know if you got
dickory dock. Oh no, sorry, I'm
that's
just breaking into Dice Man.
Yeah,
here.
that's I don't know if that poem is not as good as this one.
Totally different.
Yeah.
All right.
So in 1996 NFL season, the 1996 NFL season, which the Super Bowl of the 1996 season, the Super Bowl carries into like the new year. So it was physically 97 that the Packers won. Brett Favre, they win the 1996 NFL season, culminated with a Super Bowl in like January of whatever 1997. Okay. So that's why this poem is called 1997 Super Bowl Reflections. So it's the 1996 season. So this is written on the heels of that championship that the Packers had won.
All right.
And it's by Leo Blackburn. And this is the thing about it. I've been looking up Leo Blackburn all day, and it's like I know this name.
Yeah.
I know this name.
Why?
Because I know I've read some articles by him.
Okay.
I know I've read some articles by him. If anybody knows more about him, I welcome the information. We'll mention him on the next show. I tried my darndest to find. I was looking through my own books. I was looking through all the places looking for him. I know he's a newspaper reporter, and I believe he's a newspaper reporter for Portsmouth, because especially with the poem that we're about to read.
But this is coming from Joe Kennedy there from
Jim Kennedy from
Jim from Portsmouth.
Yes, he sent this to me. Yeah, so this is a poem.
Joe is.
You're good.
Jim is good. Joe's bad.
So this is a poem written by Leo Blackburn, and I want to. My thought was that he was a Detroit writer, and I want to say that for some reason he came to Detroit to write after covering the Spartans or something. I don't know, but the name is incredibly familiar, and I welcome any information on him, because it's sort of killing me. Like I need to know. So anybody that has any more information on which newspapers he wrote for is much welcome.
All right.
So let's just assume that he is a Portsmouth writer, newspaper, because he talks about this. This is a story. It's a poem about that 1932 Iron Man game, and but the title of the poem is 1997 Super Bowl Reflections by Leo Blackburn. Okay, so here's the poem. So here's to the Packers of old Green Bay. Another Super Bowl they've won. Hooray. Numbers 1 and 2 and 31, all three with Class 3 jobs. Well done. But here in Portsmouth, Ohio, old-timers think of long ago, when our great Spartans took the field and to the best teams would not yield. Our greatest joy in those old days were those great Spartans' winning days. They were heroes. They were heroes of the town. They brought this area great renown. Their greatest rival was Green Bay, and some of us to this late day remember well that fateful game when to River City the Packers came. December 4 and 32, a date that signals daring do. Then Portsmouth had a bone to pick, for old Green Bay we had to lick. That game, the likes will never be seen. Our valiant Spartans smashed the green with just 11 warriors strong. Revenge was sweet, right, one or wrong. Our Spartans struggled hard that day, and 19 points finally came our way. While old Green Bay a goose egg laid, yes, 'twas the greatest game ever played. Had Portsmouth kept the Spartans here, for us perhaps the world would cheer, as now it does for old Green Bay. Alas, those years we can't replay. And like the rose of yesteryear, for Portsmouth one must shed a tear. Our Spartans to the lion's den, oh, those sad words it might have been. Fantastic. Yeah, you got the little
Snap it up, snap it up.
Yeah, I thought it was an amazing poem. So, anyways, it's a phenomenal book, and I wish we would have read this. Maybe we'll hold on to this when we go back to Portsmouth. Maybe it's 101st anniversary of the Iron Man game.
With a
I didn't do a good enough
like
job.
I
didn't do enough good enough job with my own cadence. I thought I did a decent job.
No, you did
with my
great.
own
You did great.
cadence.
We need a saxophone or a trumpet player with a.
You needed more than my own cadence. I wasn't good enough to just hit it without the beats.
No, it was brilliant.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was fishing for that compliment. So anyways, so Jim actually just texted me. He's watching the show. He says a businessman here in Portsmouth. Okay, thanks, Jim. Appreciate
So it was
you, buddy.
a Portsmouth
So
correspondent.
he's a Portsmouth businessman, but the name I want to say I've heard the name as a newspaper. Maybe it was another Blackburn that I heard as a newspaper. So he said it's a Portsmouth businessman. Okay, great. That's instant.
Probably.
That's what we like the write-ins. Yeah.
Got bylined in the paper a couple times for stuff.
I'm
like
sure.
that.
Yeah. So, anyways, it's a phenomenal thing, and what I'm thinking is that this poem, like we go back to Portsmouth or whatever. This year or whatever, if we get back down there, especially it'll be like the 91st anniversary, or what is it? It's the 91st anniversary.
91. Yeah.
91st anniversary of the Iron Man game is a pretty good reason
that's
to go down.
It's landmark.
That's a good reason. 91st anniversary.
91.
Yeah, like how often does the 91st anniversary come around? Like the 90th
only
is
as often as the 92nd.
Yeah, the 92nd is rare too.
We will be there for that.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. The 92nd is important too. So, anyways, I think that this poem should be something that like we need to bring back. And Jim, if you're listening, anybody in Portsmouth that's listening,
I need a jazz trio behind me when I read that.
No, we don't need any of that.
I do.
If you're going to read it, then we can have you a jazz thing. Okay.
I'll read it with a jazz.
You can
trio.
have. Well, this is how I can see Jamie setting it up.
Black turtleneck.
You'll have your own little little speaker system. You're gonna like come up with the sheet.
Little speaker system
with the turtleneck.
Marshall stack is what I'm.
Yeah, and then you're gonna hit the button. It's gonna be like, and then Jamie's gonna give. Then he's gonna give you
that
a
would be
rendition.
even better. That would be even better. Yeah.
Yes. So, anyways, but I think that this poem is fantastic.
It is.
I think it's fantastic, and I think that it should be read on every single sort of Portsmouth, especially on the 90th. And I wish we would have read this on our show that we did in Portsmouth for the 90th.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're gonna save this because this is not the last time our listeners will hear that poem. It's an amazing poem.
We review these things that happen. We go Champions Day, April 18th, right?
Yes.
We try to do something special and signify that and celebrate it every year.
Yes.
I think the things that happen in Portsmouth, I think we should have a day every year that we do a broadcast.
Yeah, I love it. That's what I'm saying.
Do a podcast that's even if we're off and talking about weightlifting or gymnastics or checkers or one of the other 33 championships that we have to talk about for the City of Champions story. I do think we need to revisit this at least once a year.
Yeah. But on those days when we go down to Portsmouth, like this poem needs to be read on our show when we go down there. This is like a mandatory. So we're holding on to this.
Yes.
But you want to hear what's even better, like the better than like as great as this poem is. You want to know what's even better than this poem?
What's better than that?
Is that we have an Ox Emerson letter.
Oh my God.
Leo Blackburn sent a copy of this poem to Ox Emerson, and he replied talking about how much he loved the poem.
Oh my God!
So we've got a letter from Ox Emerson,
Ox talking to Leo.
dated February 23rd, 1997, responding to Leo Blackburn and telling him what his thoughts on the poem are. So as great as our commentary is, which I think is pretty good,
Oh yeah,
we got Ox Emerson sitting here in the room with us right now, man.
Oh, see that, and that's the thing about you go back to how Ox and his musings earlier that we read from Ox.
Yes.
It was a community and how they were entrenched in the community and they were marrying girls from the place and
Yeah.
and they were accepted into it and they weren't just in the NFL today.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're like mercenaries. They come and go. They come and go.
Exactly
they
what I
may
was gonna
develop
say.
small attachments here and there.
It's
but-
like Golden Tate,
Yeah.
right? He was a Lion for a while. I did a bunch of work with him while he was here. He was
Yeah.
a super cool guy. Elise, his wife, awesome lady.
Yeah.
Right? He got traded. They're gone.
Yeah.
You know, it's over. It's over. It's over and it's done with.
Yeah.
Right? And it's
But they have
this,
these connections,
these ties.
Yeah, and so Ox is actually in Texas. He's responding from an address
I
in
love
Texas. But Leo Blackburn in Portsmouth is sending him this poem, and Ox is writing him back. So we actually have.
All right, what does
we got Ox here right now, replying, and we're going to.
Does
get
he go
his
like,
thoughts.
"What a pile of horse crap"?
Yeah, that's exactly what
Leo,
he says. Very similar to that.
Pull your
yes.
head out of your backside.
Yeah, you can do better, Leo. You can do better.
No, what's he?
You can try again next time. You'll get it. You'll get a better poem next time.
See my notes.
Yeah.
See my notes.
yeah,
I provided notes.
See my criticism.
Please heed those.
Yes, it was good for the offing, but it wasn't. But the delivery
No,
was not
what
so fantastic.
did Ox say? What did he
So,
say?
no,
I'm
Ox is-
sure he
Ox
was
has
probably
got-
it was glowing.
Oh,
I'm
he's
sure.
glowing. Heck
All
yeah,
right,
he's
all
glowing. So February 23rd, 1997. Dear Leo, Dr. Chabady sent me your poem about the game the Portsmouth Spartans played against the Green Bay in 1932 in Portsmouth. I well remember the week of preparation before the game. During that week of practice, the tension and determination were so obvious the players had nothing to say. They were so intent upon the seriousness of the job ahead. In all of my football experience, college and professional, I have never seen such determination among my teammates. Your poem truly reflects the feelings of energy on that team. Of all the many games I've played in, the intensity of this game was the greatest. You captured that feeling superbly. We have sent copies of this wonderful poem to our 3 children so that they will understand the true Spartan spirit. Thanks for this remarkable tribute to the Portsmouth Spartans of 1932. Sincerely yours, Ox Emerson, out of Texas. So, yeah, so we got Ox loved it. Ox loved it.
Yeah. I got that the clip there from the Blackhawks.
Yeah, that was inside
Rink
that stadium.
there,
It's
And that
picture,
just-
I just wanted to mention, too, where I got that picture.
Yeah.
There's a great Chicago history website.
Yeah.
The other couple pictures I actually have in my book, those are well seen. But this picture here is a rare one. I have not seen that.
All right.
And whenever I see something, and also that newspaper headline that we used in the beginning, that also came from that same site. Because there's this great site called Chicagoology.com.
Oh, okay.
And it is anybody that's looking for, like, literally, I mean, it's you don't even have to be just interested in Chicago history. It is all about Chicago history.
Yeah.
But it's got some great stuff. It's a really well laid out website. Very clearly, it's got every sort of subject, like when the Great Chicago Fire. It's got all kinds of stuff on there about that. There's actually like a separate section for the actual that first NFL championship game, and that's he has some great pictures. In that picture, the headline, of course, like I say, I got from there, and also that the 2 teams lined up across from each other. That right there, I have not seen before, so I'm not sure where he got that, but it is an incredible picture. You got both teams lined up. That's one picture that I'd
the
never
mud.
seen. Totally.
In the mud and the horse poo.
Yeah. Well, there was a
uh,
circus there prior, so
the
there's
elephant poo.
So they just laid straw down, some dirt, and a bunch of
All right, there you go, fellas.
Held together by elephant dung. So it's
We'll get you tetanus shots tomorrow.
I don't
go
even know
play
if
some football.
Did they even have that back then? I don't know, but they probably were. Yeah, but they're
Oh,
like,
my God.
it's just somebody could have died from just playing on there.
Holy.
Yeah. But that's a great picture. So Chicagoology.com, if you have a chance to go just check it out. Like I say, it's a great site, and that got those pictures from it. But
I only had one of those images that you sent me up. What were the other ones? Did I not put them up to the
I
appropriate?
thought you did. Which one did you have? Which one did you put up?
What?
Oh, that right there. Yeah, I wanted to show this too. Jim Kennedy took this picture.
Yeah.
And this right here This is like, I just absolutely love this picture. He sent me this picture. This is Glenn Presnell. I believe it's from 2003 when they did this. They had the,
But Glenn came back for.
Glenn came back for a couple.
You just kind of sitting in the stands, soaking it in.
Well, Glenn was like out. He was like living out there. Glenn, everybody. It's like Will Malt knew Glenn Presnell. Like these,
right
he was a man of the community still out there. But they had a Portsmouth Spartan. They had a Ohio Historical Marker dedication ceremony, October 5th, 2003. And so Glenn was one of the main speakers for that. And there was also an Ironton Tanks, and I didn't really put the slide of this together, but there was also a Ohio Historical Marker dedication on July 21st, 2002 for the Ironton Tanks. And he was there for that too. He was like the speaker for that. So there was a couple years in a row where Glenn was like doing sort of events.
I didn't put that up. What was that? Chicago and
that's
that picture.
That's the picture.
I was zoomed in more.
I put
on the
that
other
game.
one.
That game program is all Burned on the Edges because that's like legendary.
That's great.
That game program, it's like Burned on the Edges.
Yeah.
They found there's very few of those 1932 game programs, but a bunch of them that they do have are Burned on the Edges because there was a fire in the office of the Chicago Bears. And there's actually it's really interesting. Tom Urich brought this to my attention that there was a Pawn Stars episode where somebody comes in with that 1932 game program that's burned on the corner, and one of the guys knew exactly what it was.
Right.
And he was like, and so if it's on YouTube, if you ever want to see it, it's on YouTube. And
I know what that is.
Yeah, and so it's the guy brought it in, and then like one of the main guys was like, it's a burned game program.
Wow.
And the other guy was like,
no, it's a burned game
yeah,
program.
It is.
No, seriously, but it's a.
Yeah, he's like,
he's like, it's a burned. No, he's like, no,
it is.
Yeah.
He goes, that's the telltale sign of its validity.
And then this
right here, Jim sent me this as well. This is a share of stock from Portsmouth Spartans.
Oh, okay.
Homer Selby's name is on it. This is a
Again,
share. It looks like
how involved they are in the community. They put out stock.
They all,
and the community bought into it.
Totally. So this is a share of stock. That's the Portsmouth stock looked like. Yeah.
All right. Right on.
Yep. So there's some great stuff sent to us by them. But and just like one last little thing about like the Ironton, that's another thing that gets mentioned. Like when you're talking about these Portsmouth Spartans, you're talking about we're like, we're going to dive into to understand the lines. You got to understand as Portsmouth Spartans.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is like one of the other factors to understand about the Portsmouth Spartans is this Ironton. The heritage of football in the nearby Ironton, Ohio, because one of the main things that the part that Portsmouth had to overcome was that this nearby town of Ironton had a dynasty.
Oh yeah,
they were one of the most successful teams in the history of pro football,
and a cool logo.
And they had the Ironton was awesome.
I love the logo.
Yeah, Ironton was an incredible. Yeah. Football factory. The kids they developed their players in high school, and then the players jumped right to their pro team after, and they were beating all the big teams throughout the entire country. Throughout all
you get these expansion teams. Yeah. You wish somebody would bring that back.
But the thing about it, but the thing to understand about Ironton is that they were the bar that the Portsmouth had to overcome.
Right.
And that's what's so interesting about the sort of pre-Portsmouth, the NFL Portsmouth NFL, is that the Ironton set the bar. But Portsmouth was the far larger city, and so they're like, we're getting beat by a city that we are looking at as like smaller than us.
Right.
We've got to put these guys down. Like that was their. So they were constantly. I mean, for like 5, 7, 8 years. Like they couldn't even beat them, not even once. Like they like a successful thing was like one tie, and so they were the creme de la creme that Portsmouth had to overcome, and they were only like not far away. They're like 30 miles away or something, and so they're like we got. So they were like once they finally got to the point where they beat them twice in a year, and the second game was like they pounded on them. That's when they're like, now we're ready to take on the world. And it was literally right then that once they overcame that Ironton obstacle, that they're like, if we could overcome Ironton, we're ready to challenge the world. And it was like the very next year after they beat Ironton twice in the same year, they were like, now we're ready for the NFL.
Game on.
But in most stories, that's where the story of the Portsmouth Spartans begins, is when they just joined the NFL. But there was years prior where they were trying to overcome this Ironton like nemesis who was just humiliating them every single year. And that's what I'm saying, is like that. That's why that is an important component to the story as well, was that it was only after finally beating Ironton that they were finally like, now we're looking for new galaxies to conquer. If we can beat Ironton, we can beat anybody. Let's go to the NFL. And that's when the effort started to heat up. So that's what I'm saying. So I didn't load up a picture for it, but Glenn was at this ceremony for Ironton, and they are it's like I say, the whole that whole era of football. So, but Glenn Presnell played for the Ironton Tanks.
Okay,
he played for them. He was he was like one of their big star signings, like sort of towards the end of their big their glory years. He's got signed. They were like, we got Glenn Presnell. He's about to change the game for us. Like, he was like their superstar. And then the Ironton started to fade a little bit, and Portsmouth started to pay a little more money, and so he jumped to Portsmouth, for the NFL. And once they were like, so Portsmouth's like, now we got the Ironton's like top star.
Yeah.
Now we can't be beat, So that's, so that's like, and so Glenn was at both the Ironton Tanks commemorative thing, and he was at that. But I just love that picture, because if you ever have a chance to go down to Portsmouth, which we did, with like that bleacher setup. With that concrete slab right in front of them, that is that stadium. It's like this vintage sort of concrete. This is like 1930s NFL bleachers. I mean, look at it. Look at that in the background. It is just a great shot. Jim captured a great shot at Glenn Presnell. In Portsmouth Stadium, it's a tremendous shot, and I'd like to get my picture taken up there again. I got a couple pictures out in the stadium, but you were kind of laid up that day. You had a sudden illness, but. Maybe we'll get our picture taken down there, Jamie, and we'll put that up for our show in the distant future.
I just want to thank everybody, Chris for always hanging out with us, and then Jim for all the amazing information that we shared today, and all our amazing hosts down in Portsmouth. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And then thank you for listening. Just follow or collect or whatever it is. Like, subscribe.
Every like and subscribe is absolutely massive for us.
So we appreciate that. Do that.
Yeah, we have a niche subject. This is an incredibly niche subject, and every little thumbs up or like or subscribe, every single one of those things, like
tell a friend, and then tell a friend someplace. There's an interesting story. Lots more coming. We're gonna do more on this, but there's
we've got a ton of
there's
stuff.
Track and field. There's horse racing. There's checkers. There's sharpshooting. There's just weightlifting, track and field.
Historical Museum invited us out for Champions Day this year. We'll see. We might do some historical
competitive
museum.
crochet.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not a thing, but lots more to come.
If that was a thing, they would have won that championship too.
I was searching. I was like, I wonder if Charles missed anything.
Yeah.
I was looking at like the Grammys. The Grammys didn't exist yet.
Yeah.
But the Oscars, and I went through all the Oscars. And nobody that won had any Detroit.
From Detroit?
No.
But there's a
Michigan or
there
Detroit
is a great article. I think I have it in my book. I was
trying to find something you missed. But you're a researcher. You don't miss crap.
Well, I do. I mean, there's little
but
things
your
that emerge.
I was looking for I was looking for a different type of thing. So I go, hey, the Oscars in 35, and it's like, but there was nobody.
But there's a great article that I'm pretty sure I have in my books. But it's an amazing article because they were talking about when they were listing off all the championships, inviting all these champions to the banquet where it was like the greatest gathering of champions.
Surely Temple had to do something.
But what happened? What happened was that all of these different random people were sending in to the letters of the editor saying, can I get a slot at the champions table because I am the world champion, carrier pigeon person or whatever. They had all these randoms. I'm the world champion.
I want to hang out with some of those people.
Yeah, I'm the world champion, Jack's player and stuff. Everybody was writing in, and he was listing off all these crazy championships that they were people were writing in. So maybe we'll read that article on. Maybe we'll do that on Champions Day. We'll read that article.
No.
Yeah, write a note. I don't know if you know.
I want that. I want that one.
Yeah, he's listing off all. He goes,
I want to find those ridiculous.
He's like, we've been getting submissions from all 40, these randoms.
We're the champion 40 people in a room at once
Yeah,
champion. Something stupid.
That's what's funny. Like, 'cause he goes, we have been inundated with people claiming all kinds of crazy championships. We had to cut it off at like 33.
That's right.
Like,
all right, we're going to do it again very, very soon. It's Detroit City of Champions, the podcast. Check the notes for all the interesting stuff. And
like and subscribe. Give us a little like. Give us a little comment. Do something. Like I say, we really appreciate every single one.
Yep. We'll be back again very, very soon.